What would you do if a vicious enemy suddenly started coming at you, armed to the teeth, and ready to kill you? Quote unquote. That's the opening line from the first song that I'm here to talk about today. It's a song called X-Men Doctrine and Declaration. However, I'm here to talk about 3 songs. The next 3 songs on Mike Patton's self-identified Stone Letter, where we begin at the end, in alphabetical order from Z to A as opposed to A to Z. And it is epic. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the FaithNoMore song Epic. Yep, that's Mike Patton. Also, his musical works are an epic. For those of you who don't know what an epic is defined as a long poem, typically one from ancient oral traditions, narrating the deeds of heroic or legendary figures and the history of a nation. And that is most certainly what Mike Patton has made. An epic. And the hero is Mr. Bungle. A hero unaware. Quote unquote. Dead goon. Mr. Bungle. So who is Mr. Bungle? He's a bird in flight. A hermaphrodite. Quote unquote. The song quote unquote by Mr. Bungle. Oh, but how rude of me. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Ace, and this is Dissociation, Dissertation, Part 7 of 8. So he wrote an epic. An epic of what? The epic of Mr. Bungle, the quote-unquote hermaphrodite, but it's a lot more than that. Remember, epics are not just the deeds of heroic or legendary figures. Epics are also the histories of nations. Well, this is the history of a nation. But before I get too far into that, I'd like to point something out for anyone who might have actually seen any of my previous videos. I have said the word hermaphrodite quite a lot. Think back to all the times I used the word hermaphrodite and then immediately followed it up with, I won't use that stupid word forever. Well, if you don't remember, because you haven't seen my previous videos, I have said the word hermaphrodite a lot, quoting the Mr. Bungle song, quote unquote. This epic is very meta. And I promised I wouldn't use that stupid word hermaphrodite forever. And now here we are, on the precipice of a new word. But the question remains to be answered first. What would you do if a vicious enemy suddenly started coming at you, armed to the teeth, and ready to kill you? Quote unquote. Well, it depends on who you are and what's been done to you, I suppose. In this instance, in the context of Mr. Bungle, however, I believe I know the answer to this question. Shalalag. Shalalag is an Irish fighting style where you walk with a cane and fight with it. And it is also a Mike Patton song with the band Dead Cross. The song contains the line, quote, "Hey newsman, anchor this, walk your talk with a wooden stick, a peacemaking weapon for your kids gone," unquote. So, when a vicious enemy suddenly starts coming at you armed to the teeth and ready to kill you, walk with a cane, even though you don't want to. Walk with a stick and defend yourself with it, Mr. Bungle. For your kids gone. Wait a minute. Why is this line in Shalalag addressed, "Hey newsman"? What is the news? And who is the newsman? Well, today you can call me Mr. Paperboy. And I'll tell you what the news is. The news is that Mike Patton just gave birth to twins. No, but literally, in the Reign of Error music video, cartoon Mike Patton shits out twins. Seen right here Cartoon Mike Patton, shitting out twins. So Mike Patton just had twins. Have you heard the news? Why am I laughing? I suppose it's always funny until someone gets hurt, and then it's just hilarious. I don't know if I'll laugh or cry. It's not funny anymore. Alright, enough funny business. Who are X-Men, and what is an X-Men doctrine and declaration? One aspect of it is present within the titles of the 3 songs that I am here to talk about today. That is songs 7, 8, and 9 on the upside-down alphabetical so-called stone letter. When you add these song titles together in order, it makes a complete sentence. The first song title is X-Men Doctrine and Declaration. The second song title is The World Is Yours. The third song title is Woodpecker from Mars. Let's give this sentence some punctuation, shall we? X-Men Doctrine and Declaration. The World Is Yours. Woodpecker from Mars. So we know what 2 of these terms mean already, don't we? The woodpecker from Mars I've already talked about. It's a euphemism for the unborn child of a man. Men are from Mars. And the world is a metaphor for a uterus. So we know what the world means. And we know what woodpecker from Mars means. That leaves one term yet to define. X-Men. What's X-Men? As always, there's layers of meaning here. Let's start diving. The first layer has to do with the intersection metaphor. Intersection is the metaphor that Patton uses throughout his music. It's a metaphor for having a baby. I talked about this more in my last video. Go watch it. When intersects, intersects. It's very clever. X is the symbol that you see on road signs, indicating that there's about to be a crossroads, that something is about to intersect, that there is about to be an intersection. The second layer of meaning is that X is the gender marker that intersex children are assigned at birth in states that have a conscience. So thus, for X-Men, the X signifies both intersex and intersection. So then X-Men becomes men who are intersex. Gender marker X, but we are men, and men who are intersections, men who have babies, and yet are still men. So not the superheroes of the comic books. Superheroes of another kind. Mr. Bungle, Dead Goon, a hero unaware. To quote the FaithNoMore song, Superhero. Hey superhero, I'm tugging on your cape. Tell me, will your sons know their father one day? Quote unquote. I believe the answer to that question is yes. A declaration of independence from evolution in penance. Now that's a reference to the song that precedes Superhero on the FaithNoMore album, Sol Invictus. It's a song called Sol Invictus, and it contains this phrase. How can we declare our independence from evolution in penance? Well, it starts with the news, and it ends with a doctrine and a declaration. What is the doctrine of X-Men, and what is their declaration? For that matter, why is the word executioners spelled so funny? I suppose I should backtrack for a moment here. The song X-Men Doctrine and Declaration is off of an album called General Patton versus the Executioners. And the word executioners is spelled differently, as shown on screen. I think it's spelled that way to signify that these are not your garden variety executioners that execute just anyone. I think it's spelled that way to signify that these are the executioners of X-Men. So just to be crystal clear here, this album is called General Patton versus the Executioners. And we can assume that General Patton means General Mike Patton, and Executioner means the executioners of X-Men. So then what we wind up with here is General Michael Allen Patton versus the executioners of X-Men, who are not X-Men as in formerly men, who are X-Men because they're intersex and are intersections. So now with that cleared up, or perhaps more muddied, let's talk doctrine. What is the doctrine of men who have babies? It starts with this. The moniker X-Men is not a name for something new. This is a new name for something that has always existed, for something that is as old as ambiguity. As old as ambiguity is a Mike Patton quote from the Mr. Bungle song, Walking in Circles, but nobody cares about that. Anyways, the moniker X-Men. This is a new name for something that has always existed, and that used to be a lot more common. The doctrine is that this was a family tree cut down. Somewhere along the line, Crusaders and Inquisitioners called us bearded ladies and chicks with dicks and monsters and freaks, and came in with axes and swords, and they cut down the trees. They cut down the trees with the woodpeckers still in them. Tree, by the way, is a metaphor for an intersex person. If you didn't know, trees are hermaphroditic. Woodpeckers knock on trees, don't they? When you cut down the tree, you kill the woodpecker from Mars, too. And so that is what has been done. A family tree chopped down on a road that leads us to the Crusades. And before the Church of the Motherfuckers set about this eugenics, there were more of us. So that is the doctrine. That is what has been. So what of the Declaration? This family tree is coming back to life, and a child will be born for every woodpecker from Mars that was cut down. The branches will be hung back up on this family tree. The branches are being hung back up on this family tree. Hashtag Seahorse Dads. The great resurrection of the perfect man. That is both a Mike Patton quote from the Mr. Bungle song, Desert Search for Techno Allah, and it is also a phrase that is pertinent, as in trans men are the great resurrection of the perfect man, hanging the branches back up on a family tree cut down. So cheers to you, all of you, hashtag Seahorse Dads, X-Men. Although I'd like to make something very clear. Not all of the men of the intersection are fathers. Some are mothers. Under the eye of a gun above the fathers and sons, today is Mother's Day. To quote Mike Patton, in the song Fire in the Hole, found on this very same album, General Patton versus the Executioners. As always, just to give credit where credit is due. However, whether we are mothers or fathers, the X-Men doctrine and declaration is this. The world is yours, woodpecker from Mars, who died when a branch was cut off a tree. If I get on top of the world, may the dead live. And for my great-grandson, maxi pads don't work. Until next time, peace and love, kids.